Welcome to a new episode of Ain't Got Time to Read, the place where I read a story, give you a breakdown of the plot, and simply save you time. Now, before we continue, here is your spoiler alert. If you have not read the story I'm about to discuss and you do plan to read it, then you may want to avoid this video or watch it at a later date. So that being said, let's dig into the plot of today's story. The story starts with Judge Dredd attacking a slaver settlement in the Cursed Earth. One of the slavers whips Judge Dredd around the throat and attempts to drag Judge Dredd across the ground, but Dredd uses it to his advantage and manages to yank the slaver off his horse. The slaver falls into sulphur sand and asks for help from Judge Dredd. Dredd insists that he answers his questions before he helps, and asks about a child that had been taken from a settlement 6 months earlier. The story flashbacks to several days before, where Judge Dredd visited Judge Feyy during his final hours of life. As a precog whose visions have an 88.8% accuracy of coming true, Judge Feyy has visions of a war taking place in 2120. In his visions he can see that during Megacity 1's gravest hour, during the war, a man named Owen Krysler, with a birthmark of an eagle on his forehead, will save them. Judge Feyy asks Judge Dredd to find the Judge Child. After cross-referencing 47 Owen Chryslers, there is only one that they are unable to check as they moved out of the city and into the Cursed Earth. Judge Dredd drives across the wasteland and finds the settlement only to find that slavers had attacked the settlement. Judge Dredd finds the Judge Child's parents dead and hanging from the ropes. The story jumps back to the present where the slaver is almost fully submerged in the sulphur sands. The slaver tells Judge Dredd which slaver market the boy was sent to. Judge Dredd lets the enslaved drag the slaver out of the sulphur sands and serve him their own justice, which would most likely be a hanging. Due to the unreliability of his radio whilst in the Cursed Earth, Judge Dredd fires off a message pod and continues searching for the boy. Judge Dredd drove into the slavers' market known as Neutron Flats disguised by a radiation cloak. He gets hold of the auctioneer while he is alone and questions him about the Judge Child. He tells Dredd that the boy was sold to the Fillmore Pharaoh months earlier. The auctioneer points out a group of men known as the Brotherhood of Trash that buy up slaves for Fillmore Pharaoh. Judge Dredd tells the auctioneer to put him up for sale. Dredd then tells his bike to wait west of town and follow Dredd at a distance of 2 miles. Judge Dredd is put on sale and sold to the Brotherhood of Trash. He is then taken to the town of Pharaoh, which is a huge city built into a garbage landfill. As instructed, his bike follows Dredd and dispatches anybody that is a threat or gets in its way. Judge Dredd finds that Fillmore Pharaoh is insane and obsessed with pharaohs of ancient Egypt. He had a huge monument replica of his head built. Judge Dredd is told by another slave that it gets worse, which he finds at dawn after hours of walking across the Cursed Earth, that Fillmore Pharaoh had his slaves build grand pyramids like the pharaohs of the past. The head of Fillmore Pharaoh is placed onto a grand tomb, and Pharaoh makes an appearance and talks to his slaves. He talks about his death that is likely to happen that night. Judge Dredd asks the slaves why Fillmore Pharaoh believes he is going to die that day, and they tell him that someone they call Bird Boy has foreseen it. They then confirm that he has an eagle on his forehead. Dredd radios through to his bike and tells it to cause a distraction. The bike fires upon the crowds but deliberately misses its targets, preventing any injuries. Judge Dredd uses the distraction to escape and get his chains broken. He then disguises himself and enters Fillmore Pharaoh's palace, disguised as one of the Brotherhood of Trash. He overhears people talking about killing the Judge Child. The Judge Child is injected with something by Brother Bunsen and falls asleep. Judge Dredd stealthily and deceptively infiltrates the area where the Judge Child is being kept. Judge Dredd tricks Brother Bunsen to leave but does not leave and injects Dredd instead with a drug that knocks him out. A funeral ceremony has been put into place to celebrate Fillmore Pharaoh's death. Judge Dredd is part of the group of men that have been selected for the sacrifice. Brother Bunsen is seen leaving with a box of loot and explains that once Fillmore Pharaoh dies, there will be chaos. Judge Dredd radios through to his bike again and tells it to save him. The bike opens fire onto the crowd again, causing the crowd to cause the slaves to take action and try to escape. Judge Dredd raises his hands and has the bike shoot at his chains. Fillmore Pharaoh gives orders to shut the coffin that will kill the Judge Child once he himself has died. He welcomes his death and taunts Judge Dredd to kill him. Dredd shoots him in the chest and stops his henchman from closing the spiked coffin that will kill the Judge Child. Judge Dredd misjudges the situation, and while he scuffles with the henchman, Fillmore Pharaoh has enough strength to close the coffin and kills the boy. Disgusted by his misjudgment, Judge Dredd holds the boy as it begins to rain. He is surprised to see the eagle mark on the boy's forehead begins to drip. He realises that the boy had been deceptively switched. A slave named Brewster tells Judge Dredd that Brother Bunsen left with a box of loot. Judge Dredd believes that the Judge Child was in that box. Judge Dredd follows the trail to Texas, and one of the Texas judges tells Dredd that the Angel family have escaped and most of the judges are searching for them. Judge Dredd uses the Justice computer to look for any new precogs that have recently started up. He finds one on the system called Brother Death. It turns out that Judge Dredd's hunch that Brother Death is actually Brother Bunsen is correct. The Angel Gang visit Brother Bunsen at Muty World and say that they want a precog to help them escape to space. To reiterate how serious they are, Mean Machine Angel turns his dial up to 2, which makes him mean. He tells him to have the Judge Child ready in an hour. Brother Bunsen plans on getting the credits that are owed to him and escaping with the boy. Judge Dredd sees him, so he tries to escape. The Angel Gang watch Judge Dredd chase Brother Bunsen into an attraction. They then have a giant mutant called the Thing from the Pit released from its pit, and it is ordered to kill Judge Dredd. Judge Dredd climbs up the attraction's framing in pursuit of Brother Bunsen, but the Thing from the Pit is hot on his tail. It grabs Judge Dredd and he is forced to fight it. He manages to use gravity to his advantage and gets into a position that allows him to break the Thing's arm. Leaving behind the wounded Thing, Judge Dredd is able to get to the top of the attraction where Brother Bunsen is cornered. He shoots at Judge Dredd, but Dredd avoids the shots and kicks Brother Bunsen off the ledge where he gets caught in the attraction's teeth. Judge Dredd asks where the child is, and Brother Bunsen points to the Angel Gang that are getting away with the Judge Child. Without any thought, Judge Dredd dives off the ledge into a tiny pool and survives, but he is too late to catch the Angel Gang. Judge Dredd later finds that the Angel Gang hijacked a spacecraft and they are no longer on Earth. Judge Dredd gets a team of judges together and in a star cruiser heads into space to pursue the Angel Gang. The crew is made up of Judge Dredd, Judge Lauter, Judge Lopez and Judge Hershey. Judge Winslow was present, but Judge Dredd kicked him off the ship as Dredd had no need for an accountant. On the first day in space, they investigate a suspicious ship in the mineral fields just past Pluto. Judge Dredd and Judge Hershey enter the vessel, only to find a corpse at the entrance. The captain talks to them over the intercom, and Judge Dredd rushes to the control room to arrest him, only to find that he is dead. It turns out that the rig itself is the killer, and that it was replicating the voice of the captain and killed off the crew one by one because they were going to replace it with a newer model. Controlling 2 robots, the rig attacks Judge Dredd and Judge Hershey. Dredd frees Hershey by shooting the robot that has grabbed her. She then destroys the robot that has grabbed Judge Dredd. Judge Dredd cannot radio through to Judge Lauter as the rig has replicated Dredd's voice and tricks Judge Lauter into bringing the Star Cruiser into range of the rig's rock blaster. Judge Dredd and Judge Hershey put on spacesuits, and Dredd shoots the dust exhaust funnel, which sucks them both into space. Judge Dredd now has radio contact again and warns Judge Laughter, who manages to move the Star Cruiser out of the way of the rock blaster. The rig begs that they don't destroy it, but Judge Dredd fires upon it and destroys it. Judge Dredd then briefly visits a planet called Ombre, but finds that the natives are primitive and rules out that the Angel Gang would not have landed there. The Judge's next stop is a planet called Lesser Lingo, which is in the Epsilon system. Judge Dredd and Judge Hershey are taken to the Vice President to ask them for a favour. On Lesser Lingo, the inhabitants, if wealthy enough, have their memories recorded onto a biochip, which is then used to hire out bodies. The President, while using the body of a rock star, was kidnapped and his biochip was stolen. The Vice President tells Judge Dredd that if they can bring the President's biochip back, he will tell them where the Oracle Spice is, which will help them to find the Judge Child. Judge Dredd questions the aliens about the biochip and they attack him. He opens fire upon them, but even though he is outnumbered, Judge Dredd manages to defeat them. One of the aliens attempts to escape via an underground tunnel, but Judge Dredd follows him down. The alien leads Dredd to the alien leader who has the biochip. He does not put up a fight and tells Judge Dredd that the aliens just wanted to force the humans into giving them the secrets of the biochip. Judge Dredd gives the Vice President the President's biochip. Sticking to his word, the Vice President tells Judge Dredd that the Oracle Spice is in the Aedean system. When Judge Dredd and the Justice 1 crew reach the Aedean system, they find a planet that has not been charted. The planet opens up and fires out tentacles that drag the Star Cruiser inside it. Trapped inside the living planet, they realise that other ships have also been caught, and the ship's blasters don't penetrate the planet's skin as it quickly heals. Judge Dredd has a nuke fired at the planet's inner lining and waits for it to heal over the nuke before detonating the nuke. The judges fly through the wound and find their way into one of the planet's veins. Judge Dredd releases depth charges which find their way into the planet's heart. They fire their way out as the depth charges destroy the planet's heart. The planet is dead and Judge Dredd orders them to get away from the area before anything else attacks them. They land on a planet called Agros, and Judge Dredd and Judge Hershey set out to investigate. They are unaware that all races on the planet are hostile and constantly fight in wars that they broadcast. They have just finished their current war when the judges unknowingly enter the battlefield. The alien races fire at Judge Dredd and Judge Hershey. They fire back and are forced into the battle and cannot leave until the battle is over. To end the battle quickly, Judge Dredd and Judge Hershey work together to get the flag from one end of the battlefield to the other. Judge Dredd succeeds and the judges are told that the Oracle Spice is on a planet called Necros. Judge Dredd is warned that it is an evil place and that they shouldn't go there. The judges arrive at the planet Necros and are instantly attacked by a giant creature that calls itself Murd the Oppressor. Its claws rip through the hull and create monsters that attack the judges. The judges manage to set the cruiser to autopilot before they crash, and then the creatures disappear. Judge Dredd fights his way towards the Oracle Spice, but Murd the Oppressor encases Dredd in a bubble. While encased in the bubble, Judge Dredd is stabbed and killed. Murd the Oppressor in human-sized form then brings Judge Dredd back from the dead and tells Dredd that in order to use the Oracle Spice, he must take the spice from one of the warts on his giant toad, named Sagbelly. Judge Dredd is dropped into the pit with only his knife. He manages to wound Sagbelly and stops it from eating him. Dredd radios to his bike to illuminate the sky, and the bright lights blind Sagbelly and Murd the Oppressor after living in darkness for so long. In the confusion, Sagbelly grabs Murd the Oppressor and Judge Dredd escapes out of the pit and grabs the Oracle Spice. Murd appears one last time, warning Dredd that the Oracle Spice is dangerous, and then he disappears. Judge Dredd destroys the Oracle Spice fountain and notices that Sagbelly is dead. Judge Dredd gives the Oracle Spice to Judge Lopez, who has trippy and surreal visions. He sees both Murd the Oppressor and Sagbelly. He screams out the word Bedlam and some other gibberish, and then falls into a coma. Judge Dredd does some research and finds that Bedlam is an old name used for the planet Ab. It takes several weeks to travel there, and when the judges arrive, Judge Lopez is still in a coma. Dredd is told that an Earthling arrived on the planet weeks earlier, named Prosser. Judge Dredd believes it could be a name change. Prosser is in fact a man suffering from a rare fatal disease called jigsaw disease, where body parts mysteriously vanish. He attacks his doctor, believing that they are deliberately keeping a cure from him. The doctor gives him tablets and he leaves. When Judge Dredd arrives soon after, the doctor tells Judge Dredd that he gave him mercy drugs that speed up the disease, meaning that Judge Dredd will have to find him quickly, as the jigsaw disease will finish him off in the next hour. Prosser continues to take the pills, believing that they will cure him. It just speeds up the process as more of his body parts begin to disappear. When Judge Dredd finally catches up to Prosser explains that he was the one that piloted the Angel Gang and was taking them to Xanadu. He explains that when Junior killed all of the passengers by letting them out of the airlock, Prosser questioned Poor Angel about whether he would actually receive the money owed to him. Poor Angel took Prosser to the Judge Child and told him to ask the boy. The boy began to laugh and told Prosser that he would die of a horrible disease and would be unable to hold his money. Hearing this, Poor Angel sent him off the ship in an escape pod to prevent them from catching his disease. Prosser then warns Judge Dredd that the Judge Child is evil and that the boy was the reason he was sent to the planet and caught the jigsaw disease. Then Prosser pops out of existence. When Judge Dredd returns to Justice 1, he finds that Judge Lopez has died. Judge Dredd begins to wonder if the Judge Child is tainted by evil. The judges are awoken by a distress signal and let a galactic salesman named Rhinus Limpopop Quince onto the ship, with the intention of dropping him off at the nearest habitable location. He attempts to sell the judges some of his wares, but Judge Dredd declines and offends the salesman. The salesman attacks the judges, and Judge Dredd wakes up to find that all 3 judges have been shrunk down and put into the salesman's bag. The salesman is approached by Justice 1's robots and asked where the judges are. The salesman then becomes angry when the robots tell him that they cannot land until they receive confirmation from a judge. The judges break out of the suitcase and the robots recognise Judge Dredd, so a fight ensues. The judges manage to defeat the salesman and are returned to their normal size. The salesman, on the other hand, is shrunk down and stored away for judgment. The Angel Gang arrive at Xanadu and start causing trouble. The Judge Child visits Judge Dredd in a vision and doesn't tell Dredd where he is. Justice 1 and the judges find the crash-landed spacecraft. Judge Dredd bribes the looters with bags of money for information about where the Angel Gang are. Judge Dredd manages to find a guide who was beaten within an inch of his life by the Angel Gang. They blinded both him and his horse, and since that day he has always psychically known where the Angel Gang are. The Judge Child warns the Angel family about Judge Dredd, so Poor Angel and Junior move on with the Judge Child while Mean Machine and Link set up an ambush. When Judge Dredd arrives at their hideout, a bunch of townsfolk attack Judge Dredd under the orders of Poor Angel. Judge Dredd remains calm and uses his years of training to beat them all. Mean Machine and Link dress up in women's clothes in an attempt to get close to Judge Dredd, but the blind man senses them and points them out to Dredd. Judge Dredd opens fire and shoots Mean Machine in the arm, causing him to lose his one good arm. Link grabs the blind man and begins to torture him again. Mean Machine turns his dial up to 4, but Judge Dredd hits him with a metal chain, causing his dial to get stuck on 4.5. This sends Mean Machine into a frenzy as he attempts to headbutt everything. Out of control, he grabs Link and headbutts him before charging at a petrol station and causing it to explode. The blind man tells Judge Dredd that he has enough hate in his heart to continue pursuing the remaining Angel Gang members. Poor Angel takes Junior and the Judge Child to Grunwald, which is a robot-free state. They fight several robots before the Grunwalder contacts them. They ask for safety and offer the child as payment. The Grunwalder grants them entry but does not promise that it will be safe passage. Not long after Judge Dredd and the blind man enter Grunwald, Dredd catches a mosquito robot and speaks to the Grunwalder. He barks demands at the Grunwalder, who is impressed by Judge Dredd's steely nature. He grants him passage. Judge Dredd eventually notices something in the distance and uses his rifle to look. The Judge Child provokes Junior, who fears that his brothers have died and that he will be next. Poor Angel tells him not to worry, only to take a bullet from Judge Dredd's rifle. They manage to get away in their vehicle, and the wounded Poor Angel asks Junior to buy him some time to get the Judge Child to Grunwald. Junior gets out and hides with a plan to ambush Judge Dredd. The blind man tells Judge Dredd that he can't go on anymore and asks to be left behind. Judge Dredd grants his wish and goes in search of the remaining Angel family. Once Judge Dredd has left, Junior reveals himself to the blind man and kills him. Junior then attempts to ambush Judge Dredd, but Dredd is one step ahead of him. The Judge Child tells Poor Angel to watch the death of his favourite son. Judge Dredd wins on a quick draw and shoots Junior several times. Junior tries to stab Dredd, but he stops him, picks up Junior and sentences him to death for all of his crimes. Judge Dredd then throws him off a bridge into the lava. Poor Angel attempts to kill Judge Dredd, but debris from a nearby volcano hits Poor Angel and knocks him off the bridge. He asks Dredd to help him, but Judge Dredd sentences him to death and fires at him, only to find that the Judge Child has protected him with a force field. The boy then telekinetically breaks the ledge and lets Poor Angel fall into the lava. Judge Dredd enters the palace and questions the Judge Child, who admits that he murdered Poor Angel. Judge Dredd looks the boy in the eyes and decides that he is evil and unfit to ever become Chief Judge of Mega City 1. Judge Dredd leaves the Judge Child with Grunwald and heads back to Justice 1. Judge Hershey and Judge Laughter are shocked that Judge Dredd left the Judge Child behind, but they still head back home. Thank you for watching, and if you liked the video, please like and subscribe, and I will see you with the next video.